What is going on, everybody? My name is Jeff Lightsey Jr. here with the Black Boss channel and the Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, today, we're here to talk about a five-star player who looks like he could potentially, all of this is potential, but potentially end up at an HBCU program. What's up with you, Tap King? What's up with Tap King? I love your support. I love the fact that you always give love, show love, and support the channel. Now, we're here to talk about this five-star young man. His name is he goes by the name of a Richard Young. Richard Young out of Fort Myers, Florida. Richard Young is the #1 running back in the class of 2023. So he just finished his junior season in high school. But Richard Young is showing a special interest in HBCU football. Let me share with you an article that was put out by 247 about Richard Young and about what he has going on. This is an article. It is titled, let me show you the title. Let's get this young man off my screen, and let me show you the title about Richard Young. It says, Richard Young, the #1 ranked 2023 running back, planning to visit an HBCU. So this article was written on the 27th, and I'm going to show you some updated news on Richard Young. But this article gives you a good insight onto who this young man is and why he wants to visit one particular HBCU. And there's been an update that he will actually visit two HBCUs. Now it says five-star running back Richard Young is still piecing together his winter-spring travel plans, but it sounds like at least two schools will for sure get a visit from him at some point over the next few months. Young told 247 Sports last week that he plans to check out Penn State and Florida A&M once the NCAA recruiting calendar allows him to get on the road. Now I want to make sure you guys are able to see. Okay, cool. You're able to see what I'm reading. I'm reading about Richard Young, and this is what he's doing with his recruiting. Penn State probably isn't surprising of a visit destination. State College recruited Saquon Barkley, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about that. The Lions just signed a five-star running back in Nicholas Singleton. Florida A&M, on the other hand, I love how they tried to do that, how they tried to throw the little sneak diss to Florida A&M. But anyway, Florida A&M, on the other hand, is a school that hasn't really been linked to many blue-chip recruits in the past, but it appears the Rattlers are looking to change that after going 9-3 and making the FCS playoffs for the first time since 2001. Quote, people really don't know this, but me and head coach Willie Simmons have been building a relationship for a while now. I've been texting him back and forth and talking to him on the phone. I haven't really told anyone this before, but I'm definitely going to visit Florida A&M, Young explained. Young actually picked up an offer from Florida A&M this time last year, but he didn't realize that the Rattlers wanted him until a few weeks ago when Simmons reminded him that he had a spot waiting for him at Florida A&M. Quote, it has been good lately, Young said of his relationship with Simmons. Hopefully it stays that way. While the Rattlers certainly have the work cut out for them, if they are going to eventually beat out Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, and Penn State for Young's signature, the time to strike is now. Just a few weeks ago, the college football world turned upside down when five-star and the #1 ranked player in the country, Travis Hunter, spurned Florida State in the last minute for Jackson State. Young, like many recruits, took notice of Hunter's actions. It says, quote, definitely, Young said when asked if Hunter opened his eyes a bit to historically black colleges and universities. Quote, he is building his own legacy. Wherever he goes, I'm not even going to lie. I thought he was going to stay with Florida State. But when he saw he could get coached by one of the best corners ever, he did it. That shocked me, and I told myself that I got to keep my options. I just want to look into Florida A&M, and see what that's like. Young isn't sure when he will meet with the Rattlers, but made it seem like the visit could happen in January or March. The same goes for the trip for the Nittany Lions, but we don't care about all that. So, yeah. So, Mr. Richard Young, the five-star running back out of Fort Myers, Florida, is going to visit Florida A&M. He's already put it on wax. He's going to visit Florida A&M. Now, why is that important? Well, remember when we talked about Travis Hunter? Remember when we said Travis Hunter was going to send shockwaves across the country, and Travis Hunter was going to be a trendsetter. I said for every trend, there has to be a trendsetter. There has to be someone who does it first. Travis Hunter was the first person. And now we see the vested interest in HBCUs. When the number one player in the country chooses to go to Jackson State, that's a big deal. Like it's a big deal. And this is showing why. Richard Young said he got an offer. He got an offer from Florida A&M a year ago. And it wasn't until a few weeks ago when probably right after Travis Hunter committed, because he committed in mid-December, is when he realized, yo, I could do this too. I could go to Florida A&M and make an impact. But Florida A&M isn't the only HBCU that's on Mr. Richard Young's mind. Now, I continue to tell you that Richard Young is from Fort Myers, Florida. Why is that important? Well, there's another very interesting person that's in the HBCU world who also happens to be from Fort Myers, Florida. That man happens to go by the name of Coach Prime. Deion Sanders is also from Fort Myers, Florida. Why does that matter? Well, there's that Florida thing. There's that hometown thing. There is that connection. And there was this tweet put out by Mr. Richard Young. Now, I told you guys that article that we just read was from the 27th. This tweet was put out today. This is a tweet from Mr. Richard Young, and it says, quote, I got my first HBCU offer over a year ago from who? Jackson State University. Me and Coach Prime are from the same hometown, Fort Myers, Florida. You better believe I will be visiting Jackson State University. Count on it. Count on it. He tagged Deion Sanders and he tagged Coach Chaney. I think this is head football coach, former. I guess that's his head coach at his school, and that probably knows Deion Sanders. Bolt up. Hashtag JSU Tigers. Guys, the times have changed. Times have changed for the better. These young men now realize their worth. See, here's the thing. A lot of people try to use NIL as a reason why Travis Hunter went to Jackson State over Florida State. We've already dispelled that a number of times on this channel, and there's no need to go back into that. But NIL does matter, because here's the thing. What do you want to get out of your college experience is the biggest question for any recruit. What do you want to get out of your college experience? Do you want, most of them, especially guys ranked as high as this guy that's been dominated at the high school level, that's been dominated at the national level, that's been dominated across the country. Guys like him, the number one thing they want to get out of their college experience is getting to the NFL. Okay. In Alabama, as of recently, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, a lot of those SEC schools, LSU, they have proven that they can help you get to the next level. There's plenty of pros at the NFL level, not just at the level, but actually succeeding at the level, and were drafted very high at that level, that went to those schools. And so the number one thing that these kids want to do, they want to get to the NFL. A lot of them, winning a championship is cool, but the NFL is the number one goal. Because if winning the championship was the number one reason for them choosing their college, everybody would just choose Alabama. Because Alabama wins every year. But kids want to play, and kids want to get to the NFL, because playing time gets you scouted, getting you scouted gets you drafted. And playing time, having the playing time and playing well gets you scouted, gets you a high grade, and gets you drafted high. So that's what they want to do. Well, if I can prove to you that you can get coached by the best, that you're going to get instant playing time, that you are going to have all the exposure, the same exposure you would get at Alabama or somewhat close to it, Alabama, Georgia, LSU. You're going to get the playing time. We're going to win. You're going to ball out, and you're going to get drafted. Why wouldn't you choose an HBCU? Oh, and by the way, you're going to get paid too, because at the HBCUs, we can get you NIL deals. Just look at Shedeur Sanders. We can get you NIL deals. If you come in ball and you have the name and you have the stats and you do things, you're going to get paid through NIL. Just look at what Shedeur Sanders is doing. He got to deal with Brady. He's got to deal with Beats by Dre. He's got deals everywhere. Aubrey Miller has got an apparel deal. Keontae Hampton has got an NFT. So we're going to do all of that. FAMU has connections to LeBron James. So we're going to do all of that. And so Thank you, Aaron Sanders. It says Channing went to school with Deion and played with him. Thank you. I did not know that. Thank you, Mr. Aaron Sanders. So that is what these kids are looking at. So if I can get instant playing time, I don't have to wait a year. I don't have to think about transferring. I don't have to do it because I'm going to play because I'm the best. I am going to get paid through NIL. I'm going to get these different things because you got and people fail to realize that Antoine Owen, a player at Jackson State, was the first player in all of college football. He is in the history books as the first player to get an NIL deal in the country. Antoine Owen at Jackson State, first person with an NIL deal. He signed his NIL deal in New York City at 12:01. He was the first one, by the way. So I'm going to get paid. I'm going to play. And not only am I going to play ball and do all those things I just spoke of, I'm going to do it in front of people that look like me. I'm going to do it in front of 50, 60,000 every single week of people that look like me. And I am going to get the HBCU experience, an experience you cannot get at Penn State, an experience you cannot get at Florida State, an experience that you cannot get at the experience you get at FAMU is unmatched. It's unmatched. You can't. Florida State is in the same city as FAMU, Tallahassee. You cannot get the experience. It's like going to two different cities. Going to Florida State and going to FAMU is like going to two different cities. And you're in the same city as Florida State. So this is what these young men now are considering. Because at first all they were considering is getting to the league. Well, if I can prove to you that I can get you to the league, that I can get you that exposure, because that's the thing. People want to say, hey, I want to make sure, especially if I'm coming from California, like my guy Tyson Bordeaux, down to Grambling, I want to make sure my people down in Southern California can watch me. I can promise you we can get you that exposure. I can promise you, grandma, mom, everybody who's never missed you, who's never had to miss a game because you always play down the street, they're not going to miss a game because you're going to play on television. They're not going to miss a game because you're going to be on ESPN. They're going to be on networks. There's going to be a streaming service that's going to get them your games. It's okay. You're going to play. And you're going to get that HBCU experience that you cannot experience nowhere else. Thank you, Knight. Appreciate it. You are not going to get this experience nowhere else. Absolutely, positively nowhere else. You're going to play in front of 50, 60,000 that look like you. And then you're going to play in a Celebration Bowl that is better than any bowl game experience that you can have at Penn State. It's better than any bowl. What bowl game is Penn State playing in, you guys? Because that's the other school that they're associating with this guy. So let me look up Penn State football, and I want to see what bowl game they're playing in. So they're playing. So this is the bowl game that Penn State is playing in. Let me stop sharing that, and let me share. I'm going to show you guys. This is the competition, and this is now what young men are looking at. Young men are looking at. Do I want to go play in the freaking Outback Bowl? And Arkansas is a good team, but Penn State is playing in the Outback Bowl. A bowl game named after a restaurant. I don't know what city it's in. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of fun. I'm sure the players that decide to play are going to do a good job. They're going to have a great time. They're going to do all that cool stuff, and, everything that comes with it. Or would you rather play in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Atlanta, Georgia, in front of 50, probably be 55s. They'll probably expand it next year. 50, 55,000 people that look just like you. That have a battle of the bands. That has an experience like no other. An experience like no other. To me, that's an easy decision. And I think young men are making this an easier decision every single day. It's not by coincidence that this stuff is happening right now. There's no coincidence that this stuff is happening right now. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, guys. We're coming in here really heavy. So this Richard Young news is huge because Travis Hunter told us when he committed to Jackson State, and even though all those stupid rumors were flying out there, he said, I want to shine the light. So therefore, the next young man that chooses or that has interest in going to an HBCU doesn't have to take these bullets that I'm taking right now. And Travis Hunter took hella bullets, as you guys all know. He said the next young man won't have to go through this because it will be more of the norm. Now, I told you guys, it's not going to be five stars every year choosing HBCUs. But even if it's one or two, that's more than we were getting before. Is it not? Is it not? And the raised level of competition, and the more these guys go to different schools, all of them don't need to go to Jackson State, and everybody don't want to go to Jackson State. Some of them want to go to Grambling. Some of them want to go to Tennessee State. Some of them want to go to FAMU. But the more these guys choose the HBCUs, the more exposure they get, the more money they get, the better cable deals they get, because all of this really comes down to money. And Richard Young, by the way, guys, is a dog. Let me show you guys some of Richard. Like, this is why FAMU and Jackson State want this young man. I mean, this young man is a beast. Like point blank, period. He is a beast. I'm going to show you some of his highlights. And this is him. I have it on mute because they have, the copyright stuff. But this young man is a beast. I mean, he is not no soup sandwich. He is not no little man. He is not he is not nothing to mess around with. I mean, the young man is 5'11", 200 pounds. He looks a lot bigger than that. He looks taller than 5'11". He looks bigger than 200 pounds. But the young man is a beast. He's playing in one of the highest classifications in the state of Florida. And we know Florida breeds football players. And he is the number one running back in the entire country. This young man is different. Period. He is different. I'm going to look at some of your comments. It's facts, bro. I'm so happy these young brothers and sisters are considering going to HBCUs. Oh, my computer want to mess up. I hate that. But yes, it is beautiful to see people like Mr. Richard Young choosing and deciding between HBCUs and promising to take visits. Because the fact that, I mean, this is something that should have been happening. Now, I've talked about before how certain things are just limited to Jackson State. I talked about how I didn't like how Coach Prime says, like, we shouldn't take money games because, it's getting our guys hurt and blah, 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 all that stuff. And he's right to a certain extent. But at the same time, everybody don't get 5 stars like Travis Hunter. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody hasn't gotten to that level yet. Now, once we get to a certain level in the in the SWAC, in the MEAC, in some of these different conferences, then yeah, they won't have to take some of these money games. They won't have to do some of these things. But until you get to that level, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Your school, the kids in your school got to eat. You feel me? Like, those things got to happen. And so you can't just say, don't take these games. And so, I'm beyond proud that these young men, and they're in the US2 bowl. What kind of bowl game is this Penn State's playing? I can guarantee you I'd much rather be playing in the Celebration Bowl than whatever the hell bowl game Penn State's in. I'm just being honest. Florida State ain't in no bowl game. Florida State's got 8 wins over the last 2 years. Jackson State just had 11 wins this past season. FAMU had 9 wins. Florida State's got 8 in 2 years. So they ain't doing much better. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. What do you want to make out of your college experience? Do you want to go to Battle of the Bands? Do you want to see the Marching 100? Do you want to see the Sonic Boom of the South? Do you want to see these, have those things, where halftime is just as lit as the game? Or do you want to go to a place where, they might love you, they might not? And let's be real. Let's talk about these institutions that these guys are going to. Deion Sanders, who is arguably the greatest player to ever go to Florida State, right? He's arguably the greatest player. It's really either him or Charlie Ward. Ain't no much more debate. Peter Warrick's kind of up there. Jameis Winston had a nice run. There's some other guys that are really good, but it's either Deion Sanders or Charlie Ward. Those are the two best. I think Prime. I think I had somebody on one of my comments said it was Charlie Ward, and I can't argue with Charlie Ward. He won a Heisman, didn't win, mess around and went and played basketball in the NBA. Like, dude is a beast. But he's arguably the greatest player to ever go to Florida State. And as soon as he gets a kid to flip from Florida State to Jackson State, you got fans, people that say they're fans, and people that say, oh, I love Deion Sanders, I love Coach Prime, he's the best ever. As soon as he gets the kid to flip, now you're burning his jersey. Now you're throwing his stuff away. Now you're doing all these things and saying he's dead to you, saying Florida State should unretire his name or his jersey or whatever, saying Florida State should take him out the Florida State Ring of Honor or Hall of Fame or whatever they got him in. It's real. This is real. These are real things that happen. All because he took a recruit that you thought was yours, that you thought belonged to you, that you thought was going to your school. Nah, bro. Nah. That don't happen at Grambling. That don't happen at Jackson State. That don't happen at Morgan State. That don't happen at FAMU. Those things, they don't say those things about their players. You know what they do with Hall of Fame players and players that are legends at some of these schools? They bring them back. You know what I'm saying? They bring them back and they show them off and they praise to the world that they are an alumni of Florida A&M University. They are an alumni of so-and-so university. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they do. You know, they do that other stuff at Florida State. They don't do that at FAMU. Let's read some of your other comments. Soul Survivor says it's tremendous that they would even consider an HBCU. It is, but the table has been flipped. The ground has been shaken. The moves have been made. And Coach Prime continues to promise us. Let's not forget this too. Coach Prime continues to promise us that he has another 5-star in the pipeline. I talked about in one of my other videos that could possibly be Shamar Stewart, who's also from Florida. And Deion Sanders loves his Florida boys. Just look at Malachi Wideman and etc. because he's from the great state of Florida. But he keeps telling us there's another 5-star in the pipeline. Keontae Hampton, repeated those sentiments when he did a recent interview. So we'll have to wait and see. Florida is definitely a great source for football. Florida's the best state. It ain't just a great source. It's the best state. And there's Florida. There's Texas, there's California, there's Georgia. Outside of those four, and then per capita, Louisiana. That's why don't sleep on Grambling, because Louisiana has some ballers. Louisiana honestly may have the most per capita. It's just a smaller state. Therefore, they don't have as many people. But per capita, Louisiana got some of the best ballers on the football field in the country, period. Louisiana and Georgia. They've rose up the ranks. Louisiana and Georgia used to be Florida, California, Texas, real heavy. But Louisiana and Georgia have definitely made their names as far as when it comes to football ballers, because they have some studs that come out of those states. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, guys. We're in here really, really heavy. It says Travis made himself a conduit for change for the other young bucks to follow his footsteps and consider signing up for HBCU college experience. And the reason why Travis did that is because he went to the school. See, Travis Hunter, you got to think, Travis Hunter is the #1 player in the country. So therefore, he's been to a ton of schools. He's been to a ton of schools, been on a ton of campuses. He's seen it all. He's seen all the facilities. He's seen every single thing at all the top campuses across the country. That includes Alabama. That includes Clemson. That damn sure includes Florida State. He's seen it all. It's when he went to the SWAC championship game with 50,000 people that looked like him that changed his entire perspective. He said, what? This is what it looks like when I come here? I'd have been to Florida State when it sold out with 90,000, double the amount, 90,000, 100,000, however much Florida State can hold. I know it's like somewhere in that 80, 90, 100,000. It's way more people. And he saw what that looked like. And somehow, some way, with the 50, 60,000, whatever that's packed the vet that day, he saw and he was like, whoa, this is different. I've been to a lot of schools. I ain't seen something to look like this. And that is what changed his mind. And so when he makes that decision, and these other kids, and that's the thing, that's what's so big about getting these kids on campus. See, talking to a kid through Zoom or talking to a kid on the phone or exchanging text messages, that's cool. But when Willie Simmons gets Richard Young on campus, that's going to be big. Now, they're saying he's going to come there in March or January, whatever, and that's cool. But when he gets to campus, or when he goes to, because he's from Florida, watch when he pulls up, because he's going to pull up to the Orange Blossom Classic. What you think that's going to do to him? When Richard Young, the #1 running back in the entire country, Richard Young, one of the top prospects in the entire country, Richard Young, a player, a kid from the state of Florida, pulls up to Miami for the Orange Blossom Classic to watch Jackson State against FAMU. What you think? What you think that's going to do to him? What you think? He's going to commit that day probably. He's going to choose one of those schools, whoever comes out on top, whether it's Jackson State or FAMU. He might choose the loser. It don't matter. But he is going to get an experience, and he's been to a ton of these schools. And I'm going to show you his Instagram because he's been to a ton of these schools. He's been to Georgia, Clemson, all these different schools. But when he goes to that Orange Blossom Classic, or when he goes to Tallahassee and visits FAMU, or when he goes down to Jackson, Mississippi and visits and goes to the vet with 60,000 in there, it's different to get cheered on by your people, to have your people, black people, rooting for you. It's different. Like having people root for you is cool. To have black people, all black people root for your success and genuinely mean it, because we mean it. Obviously, we got all black people ain't perfect, but when black folks is rooting for you, they really rooting for you. Come on, bro. It's different. It's different. Why money games when the schools are supposed to be adequately funded? But we know that doesn't take place. We know all the HBCUs aren't adequately funded. I mean, just look at Howard. Howard is considered the Mecca of HBCUs, right? Howard is the Mecca. That's what they call themselves. And Howard had students protesting because their dorms had mold and rats and mice. So we know all HBCUs ain't funded correctly. And that's after Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, Mackenzie Alexander, gave Howard like $40-50 million. And somehow, some way, they still ended up, having rice and mold and rats and all that kind of stuff. So we know that ain't all the way true. It says 2 sellout games for most of us could get the money of those games we need. We need to support the teams. Absolutely. We need, and that is why I am doing my due diligence, doing what I can do, and that's bringing you the news and what I see taking place with guys like Richard Young and Travis Hunter to give them the proper spotlight. Now, someone says Peter Warrick's the best FSU player, but much love to Coach Prime. That's arguable. Peter Warrick was a dog, too. Peter Warrick was a dog. It says Coach Prime says he doesn't like money games for his team because of the injuries and humiliation, but that can change real fast with recruits. That could change. I don't think Jackson State with that offensive line, as we saw at the celebration, but that offensive line needs a lot of help. But guys like my homie Evan Henry are going to come and try to change that. But Jackson State still has a long way to go. I think people forget because Coach Prime is very flashy, and because Coach Prime is always out in front of cameras and stuff, the Jackson State is still rebuilding. Like rebuilding takes some time. And albeit he got a ton of transfers and got some very, very talented people on his roster, this is still very much a rebuild. And South Carolina State proved that when they took Jackson State to the woodshed and took them to town. When they've had a coach that's been there 20 years, or Jackson State's had a coach that's been there 20 minutes. It's a big difference. So there is that. It says Deion's experience at FSU corresponds to the reality of black life in USA. Absolutely. And that's why I see, and I think Deion Sanders, you got to think Deion Sanders is someone who's been around football his entire for a very, very long time. He's been in the football spotlight for well over 30 years. He's drafted in the 80s. He played in the NFL for over 15 years or something. Then he worked the NFL Network for like 15 years. And then he worked the Under Armour All-American games for a very, very long time. So he's been around a lot of football, like just a whole lot at every level, from the youth league all the way up to the pros. And even he was taken back at what Jackson State looked like. All he could do was like, whoa, look, like all we can do is praise God. Because when our people come together and it looks like this, I ain't never experienced nothing like this before in my life. He said that. That's coming from his mouth. And this is someone who's been around football at the highest of levels. And so just imagine what these kids think at 17, 18, 19 years old, coming into FAMU and seeing the Marching 100. Let me know in the chat if you've seen the Marching 100 perform. The Marching 100 is one of the baddest bands in the country. I think Southern probably the best. I'm not just because I like Southern a lot. Southern, woo. I remember I was in here one day watching. It was during the Jackson State Southern game. I watched the halftime performance, and I was like, Southern is tough. Southern is nasty. But the Marching 100 is really, really good. And obviously the Sonic Boom of the South is tough. So yeah, I really, really love what the HBCUs are doing. I love the HBCU experience, albeit I didn't go to an HBCU, but I'm definitely going to be checking out some games this fall. I have a lot of friends that went there and they love it and they always talk about it. Let's look at some of your other comments. You said, I hope you get some 4 or 5. That's coming. That's going to have to come, because if that doesn't come, you're going to have some problems. See, the thing about Shedeur Sanders, and the two things, and I talked about this in another video, the two things that the SWAC and the MEAC are lacking is the trenches play and the quarterback play. I think the skill players are just as good in the SWAC and the MEAC as any other conference in the country. But the trenches play and the quarterback play, a lot of MEAC and SWAC quarterbacks are run-first quarterbacks. They're not pass-first. And then the trenches obviously has to improve. But I think getting some of these guys, because you get a Richard Young, you're going to have to bring him some linemen. I mean, look at this young man. Let me show you guys, because I'm talking about, once again, we're talking about Richard Young, a 5-star running back, the #1 running back in the country, plans to visit both Jackson State and FAMU. Plans to visit both Jackson State and FAMU. When he gets there, I'm telling you, his life is going to change. When he steps foot on campus, when he steps foot at the Orange Blossom Classic, because he's from Fort Myers, Florida, so there's a good chance he'll be at the Orange Blossom Classic to watch both teams play. His life is going to change. This young man is a beast. We showed his highlights earlier. This is his recruiting profile. This is this young man. He is Look at them stars. Count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He is a .9915. The fifth best player in the state of Florida, the number 1 running back at his position, and the number 16 player in the country. This man is nasty. 5'11", 200 pounds. This is what he looks like. He looks like a grown man. This dude's a junior in high school, people. He's a junior and he's a rising senior. This is what he looks like, a grown man. He is a beast. We showed his highlights earlier. He is going to make a major impact at either Jackson State or FAMU if he chooses to go there, because there is stiff competition to get his services. Like, it's not a 2-team race. Like, there is some stiff competition to get this young man services, and I'm going to show you some of that stiff competition. And this is why I think getting him on campus is going to be big, because like I said, there's a whole lot of comp, but he is showing love to the HBCUs. Let me go ahead and share my screen and show you some of this, and I'm gonna get back to some of your comments because you guys are flooding them in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. But this is what Jackson State's up against. That's a Georgia jersey. He's got on, that's Georgia gear right there. Georgia's coming after him heavy. There's some other, that's a Florida. Obviously the Gators, they got a new coach. They want them a new star running back. There's the Gators. It's going to be tough, guys. It ain't going to be no walk in the park. Ain't just going to be like, oh, Jackson State fam, you got this. I just want to make this as realistic as possible. This is the Ohio State Buckeyes. This is the number 1 player at his position in the entire country that looks like a grown man at 16, 17 years old. There's a ton of teams that want his services, and it's not going to be a walk in the park. This is him in an Alabama jersey. It's not going to be a walk in a park to get his services, but it gives me a lot of hope seeing a guy like Travis Hunter choosing an HBCU, and hopefully you can snag a guy like Richard Young as well. FAMU seems like they're in a good position. There's a whole article about FAMU, and then he went ahead and talked about how Jackson State was his first offer from an HBCU back in December of last year. Then I think shortly after FAMU offered, I know North Carolina A&T has offered this young man. He could be a huge get for someone's program. I cannot wait to see what he is going to do. Let's see. It says Prime's only been in Jackson a full year come January. Yes, he's talked about that a ton. Norfolk State band is the big thing in Virginia. Are they? I've never heard Norfolk State's band play. I need to tap in with Norfolk State's band. Shout out to you, Princeton. Shout out to you, Princeton. I appreciate the support. Man. That's all I can do is say thank you. Let's see. I'm telling you, the second he gets off the plane, there will be Power 5. Yeah, Coach. Coach Simmons, there's going to be a ton of. I just showed you all the Power 5. This man ain't no soup sandwich. Like, this young man is a beast. This young man, that's the thing. These Power 5 programs know that Jackson State, FAMU, South Carolina State, and all these other schools, they have an element that they can't bring. They're black. They're black-owned programs run by black people with black faces everywhere that get supported by black people. Nick Saban know he can't compete with that. Dabo Swinney knows that he can't compete with that. So the worst thing that these prospects can do is go visit these places, go visit these institutions. Because once you go see the history that's taking place at Jackson State, once you go see the history that's taking place at South Carolina State, and you understand, like, South Carolina State, which is in the state of South Carolina, has more Pro Football Hall of Famers than Clemson, which is also in the state of South Carolina. Like, a lot of people don't know that. Jackson State has 4 Pro Football Hall of Famers, the most out of any other school in the state of Mississippi. Like, a lot of these kids just don't know that. They're 17, 18, 19 years old. They haven't been taught that. All they see is Clemson, Alabama, Florida State, all on the TVs. But then when they go visit these institutions and see the bands play and see the girls on campus and see the teachers look like them and the students look like them and the administration looks like them, etc., their mind starts to open up. They get a different perspective. At Alabama, as a football player, the only people that you go see that look like you is other football players and the basketball team. Like, I went to a PWI. You get a few, or unless you take sports management classes. Sports management classes in college campuses across this country have a ton of black people. But if you a major anything outside of sports management, your college experience is going to be full of white people. Period. It is. It's going to be filled with a bunch of white faces, from administration to teachers, professors, counselors, advisors, everything. At the HBCU, it's not the same. It's just not. It's just not the same. Now, granted, obviously there's a black population at these universities, but it ain't an all black population. And these other schools just simply can't compete with that, period. These FCS playoff teams only have great O-line and D-line depth. Take away North Dakota State, they're not the same. They do have good coaches, though. I'm not too worried about the FCS teams because the SWAC and the MEAC have already told us that they don't give a damn about the FCS playoffs. That's why they create the Celebration Bowl. And the Celebration Bowl brings them a ton more money than anything they could have ever did with the FCS playoffs. So I'm not mad at that at all. I think all the youth, especially black, should at least go to one HBCU game. It's inspiring because it dispels the stereotype myths that black people can't get together and be positive. My first made me go to FAMU. And that's what's happening. That's what happens when these Richard Youngs and these Travis Hunters and these other kids get to Jackson State or FAMU or whatever. They're going there, and some of them. Let's be honest. Can we keep it a bean? Can we keep it a buck? We've been doing this on this channel for the duration of its existence. Can we keep it a bean? A lot of these kids come from inner cities. A lot of these kids come from poverty. A lot of these kids, I don't know about Travis, and I don't know about Richard Young, and I don't know about, whoever, but a lot of these really, really high ranking football players come from places of poverty, come from places with areas that aren't very good. They just aren't. We know that comes from, systematic racism and all that stuff, but they come from places where a lot of black people are struggling. A lot of black people aren't doing the best. A lot of black people are into illegal activities. A lot of black people are not doing what, a lot of black people out here trying to live like the rappers. And that's where a lot of these kids come from. And when they get to college at an HBCU, you get some of that it infiltrates, but you're seeing a lot of you're seeing doctors, Dr. So-and-so, and he looked like you. You're seeing Dr. So-and-so, and she looks like you. You're seeing administration that looks like you. To go along with the coaches that played in the NFL, the coaches that know how to get you to the NFL, the coaches and advisors and whoever that actually care about you, these people that you have relationships with outside of the game of football. You can't beat that, man. You quite frankly just can't beat that. Ooh, this is long. This is a lot of black people are complaining. And listen to other folks saying phone calls going to hurt him when he comes to the pro level, like these white owners and white coaches that have affiliations with Florida State going to use all type of excuses. Man, we ain't worried about that at all. Folks ain't worried about that at all. Travis Hunter, see, that's the thing. When you're as talented as a Travis Hunter or a Richard Young or some of these other young men, like the scouts are going to find you. You're too talented. You're too good. You're too much of a baller, too much of a stud. Come on, bro. Like, they're going to find you. And then what these coaches like Willie Simmons and Deion Sanders and Hugh Jackson are doing at these schools and Eddie George, they're going to find you. And these people have deeply rooted connections. Deion Sanders was a Hall of Famer. Eddie George played 9 years in the league and won a Heisman Trophy. Hugh Jackson coached for 30 years. Come on, bro. Head coach at the NFL level for multiple teams. Ain't too many black people can say that. Ain't too many black men. Think about this, guys. Ain't too many black men in the history of the NFL has gotten more than one head coaching job. Hugh Jackson was the head coach of the Raiders and the head coach of the Browns. You can say whatever about his time there, but he did it. He did it. And he was a special assistant to the offense coordinator for, I think, the Redskins, the Falcons, the Bengals. Like, bro knows what he's doing. That's the portal can help HBCU get linemen. That's not starting at the portal has been huge for HBCUs. Alabama and A&M is killing it via the portal. Jackson State obviously has been killing it via the portal. Mississippi Valley, don't sleep on Valley. Valley is going to have a very, very formidable squad. It's killing it via the portal. Hit the thumbs up button, guys. We are in here very heavy. Thank you to all of you that are watching. Listen to Coach Simmons says a lot of HBCUs have kids under 17 get in free. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, Coach Simmons. A lot of HBCUs have kids under 17 get in free. I had no idea. Are you talking about get into the games or get into the university? Like, either one, that's pretty dope. I had no idea that, about either one of those. It says I'm marching them 100, fall 96, and you're right. This jaw-dropping experience. I cannot wait. I am going to book this, guys. Listen to me. I'm marking. I'm saying it here right now. I am going to go to, I don't know if this is this fall. I'm going to go to FAMU. I'm going to go to Tallahassee, watch a game. I'm going to go to Jackson and watch a game. I'm going to go to Grambling and watch a game. I'm going to all three places hopefully this fall because I gotta see Coach Hugh Jackson. I've made some connections with some of the guys. If you watch my channel, you see that I've had some of the guys in this current 2022 Grambling class on my channel. I want to go see them play. I want to go see what Hugh Jackson's doing. And I've never been to the state of Louisiana ever. I want to go to FAMU because I think FAMU is going to be amazing this season. I think FAMU is going to have a really, really good shot of knocking Jackson State off that SWAC title. And I got to go see Coach Prime and the Jackson State Tigers. So that's just my thing on that. Let's see. I'm going to get to a couple more of your comments and I'm going to get out of here, guys. I thank you so much for coming in, chiming in, hitting that thumbs up button and all that good stuff. It says Hunter's mentors moved him to a nice neighborhood. Okay, I don't know about all that. If you can ball, it doesn't matter. Absolutely, Charles. Charles, if you can ball, if you can ball, the folks are going to find you. The folks are going to love what you do, and they're going to find you, and they're going to put you in a position to win. And that's the thing. That's the thing about going to a FAMU and going to a Jackson State and going to these places. These coaches really do care. These coaches really do care. Why? Because they were once you. That's the experience. You can't get that at Florida State. Mike Norvell can't talk to Travis Hunter the way Deion Sanders does. Do you hear what I'm saying? Kirby Smart can't talk to Richard Young the way Willie Simmons does. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like like Nick Saban can't talk to a kid the way Hugh Jackson does. Do you understand what I am saying to you? Come on, man. Come on. Like they just can't. They just can't. Someone associated with FSU. Oh, absolutely. I said that in my last broadcast. I don't have any sources. Nobody has ever told me that, but I could almost bet you a lot of money that someone from Florida State put that Barstool stuff out. Like it was too quick. It was too garbage. Like it was such a garbage reason. So yeah, like hey, they definitely put that rumor out. He's also as a QB coach, Carson Palmer map. This is Hugh. This is Hugh. And think about this. And that's the thing. When you go to these places with these coaches, with all these connections and stuff, you get experiences that you can't get anywhere else. So Hugh Jackson, as you point out, he had the Matt Leinart and the Carson Palmers. Think about who Hugh Jackson can bring to Grambling. Hugh Jackson has Chad Ochocinco on speed dial. He's going to pull up to Grambling. He was on I Am Athlete. So that means he's tapped in with Brandon Marshall. They're probably going to pull up to Grambling. Like, think about this. You're going to have guys. Jackson State has Gilly, Wallow, has all these dudes, Troy Aikman, and all these dudes that come out to their games because Coach Prime has those Terrell Owens, Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis pulling up to their camps because they have these connections. Eddie George has got all these dudes from the NFL pulling up to their camps. Dennis Thurman, who's the defense coordinator at Jackson State, has all these connections. Like more and more people are going to show up to these schools and lend them the support that they deserve because of the connections that the coaches have. Willie Simmons tapped in with everybody in South Florida. Bro, come on, bro. Like you're not going to get that experience at these other places. You're just simply not. Dancy is awesome. No, Dancy is killing it. Dancy was dealt a tough stack because Mississippi Valley State isn't the easiest place to recruit to, and Valley isn't the easiest place to go play. And albeit they had Willie Totten and Jerry Rice, and but that was a long time ago. That was a very, very long time ago. But Dancy is killing it. I think Coach Dancy is going to have a really, really good team at Mississippi Valley. Don't say I didn't warn you about Valley before the season. Do not say I did not warn you. Now, Juan said, why not go to Prairie View? Prairie View ain't hired a coach yet. Unless somebody in the chat can inform me, Prairie View has not hired a coach. And so I'm not sure why you would choose Prairie View yet. Now, Prairie View hires the right coach, and rumors are Ray Lewis is very, very interested. That's the rumor, but we don't know. But until you hire a coach, it's going to be hard to get anybody to come in and play. It says if you go to Jackson, go to Homecoming or the Boombox. I'm going to have to tap in with that. I'm going to have to remember that, Sonic Boom. Appreciate that. JSU had NFL scouts at several of the practices and their hope games. NFL don't care where you play college ball. Trey Lance, Carson Wentz both played in the FCS. Darius Leonard played at South Carolina State. If you can ball, they will find you. Khalil Mack played at Buffalo. Now, and that's another thing. I remember I was talking about the payout games. The Coach Prime called those sellout games. It's another reason why I wouldn't call those sellout games, because during those games, when you're a smaller school like a South Carolina State and you play a Clemson like they did this year, and Jacoby Durant balls. Like Jacoby Durant introduced himself to a national audience the day he played Clemson and balled out. I think he had 2 interceptions. I know he had 1. I think he had 2. He balled out. He was instantly put on draft boards after that one game. Khalil Mack, when he played at Buffalo, played a game against Ohio State and instantly went on draft boards because he wrecked the game. Now, Ohio State beat him like 50-0, but Khalil Mack finished with like 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and they were like, yo, who the hell is that? This dude, who we know is the best player, and we have all these 5 and 4 stars, and they have a bunch of no stars, and this dude's wrecking our game plan? Who is that? How is he making plays? We're double and triple teaming him, and he's still making plays. That's what those games bring you, is a level of exposure that a lot of these schools don't get yet. I emphasis on yet because I believe that it is coming. I believe that the more that you guys tune in and you listen to guys like me and Offscript and CFL and Swack and a Fool and Tomorrow's Leaders and Coach Simmons and a bunch of people that's out here putting out great content, bigging up these HBCUs, that is when we will continue to see the rise. It's just beginning, guys. It is just beginning. And the more you guys tap in, like, share, subscribe, do all those things, the more you listen to us, the more you get the latest news, the more guys like this dude, the more people like him are going to decide to go to HBCUs. The more you guys are the reason. It ain't just a lot of people say, oh, it's all Coach Prime and it's all. No, you guys are the reason why people like him are considering HBCUs, because of the love and the support that you show. It ain't just me. It ain't just Coach Prime or Willie Simmons or Hugh Jackson. It's you. It's the people. These young prospects are feeling love from you all. I had Tyson Bordeaux and Melvin Capers are going to Grambling, and all they kept talking about was the Graham fam. The Graham fam, the Grambling State alumni, the West Coast connection that linked up with Tyson already. The man they've been committed for 3 days. And they said they've received an outpouring support of love and affection towards them, all because they're deciding to go to Grambling. The Jackson State alumni, Miles Jackson, who's a linebacker transfer from UCLA, is going to visit Jackson State. He talked about Jackson State's the most hyped fan base out of any fan base, and he's been recruited. He's been recruited by a ton of schools. Now somebody said, no, Offscript. Offscript be going in on Jackson State sometimes, but he's good at what he does. He's very, very good at what he does. But so yeah, Miles Jackson. Yeah, so like he talked about it. So you guys are the reason these kids are choosing. It ain't just Coach Prime and the cool jerseys it's because of the love and the support they're getting from you. So the recognition is coming. It's slow and steady, but it's coming. But thanks to you all, it is coming. So yeah, someone says Miles Jackson fans are showing them much. Yeah, they are. I'm literally watching it because you're showing me love. It's a couple hundred of you in here right now. I never had views like this. I've been doing YouTube for a long time. Never had views like this. And so I started talking about Jackson State. So I started talking about Tennessee State and Grambling and FAMU. It's because you guys want this information. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, by the way. So, yeah, man, I cannot wait to continue to see some of these great things happen. It says if you have experienced the HBCU experience, it'll change your life. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. Man. It's a little bit over a month from signing day, and Prairie View has no coach. Someone needs to answer. Yeah, that's a little weird. That is very, very weird. The fact that Prairie View doesn't have a coach right now is extremely weird. And the fact that there's some big names. I mean, think about this. Prairie View is an HBCU in Houston, freaking Texas. Prairie View, I'm going to repeat that. Prairie View is an HBCU in Houston, freaking Texas. It's an HBCU in Houston, freaking Texas. That should be someone's dream job. One, because you're in prime real estate for recruiting. Houston area puts out a ton of. There's not a better location for recruiting in the SWAC. There's not a better location for recruiting in the SWAC than Prairie View. As far as football, I'm gonna say as far as football. Houston and Texas. Now, Tallahassee is good because of Florida. But Tallahassee, you got to shoot down to Miami. You got, make some moves to get some recruits. In Houston, Texas, you can pick up a rock and throw it, and you're going to hit a 5-star in the head. You're going to hit 2 of them. You're going to skip. It's going to skip and hit a couple of 5 stars. Prairie View not having a coach, That's weird to me. That's weird because they should have someone in there. It's an HBCU in Houston, Texas. Someone says Corbin and Houston need to play in these all-star games. If they do, it'll be great for HBCUs. Yeah, so James Houston, from what I understand, has accepted an invite to the East-West Shrine game and the NFLPA game. Those are the two I think he will be participating in, and that's going to be a really, really good look to see him in the East-West Shrine game. Guys, thank you all so much for the love and the support. I am glad that you all are tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for all your latest in HBCU news as far as football goes, especially. I'm trying to pick up on the MEAC. I'm really good with the SWAC right now. I'm trying to expand to the MEAC very, very soon, so be sure, MEAC fans, your Howards, your Morgan States, your South Carolina States, so on and so forth. I'm trying to expand to the MEAC. I'm get my ducks in a row when it comes to the MEAC. I'm pretty on top of the SWAC, but thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate every single one of you. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jeff Lightsey Jr., and the Black Boss channel for all your updates on HBCU sports. That's Jeff Lightsey Jr. and the blackbosschannel.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and I will see you next time. Peace.